Hey everyone, welcome back to TechBit Academy. Please like this video and subscribe to the channel.
Welcome to today's explainer. We're going to dive into something that will absolutely change how you look at your daily digital habits. We'll be exploring how navigating the web is, surprisingly, exactly like surviving out in the wild. Let's get right into it. So, why do we browse the web like wild animals hunting for food? I know, it sounds kind of crazy at first, right? But this question is the whole foundation of today's explainer. By the time we wrap up, you're going to see exactly how your everyday scrolling is basically the digital equivalent of a wolf tracking its prey through the woods. Okay, let's really dive into this. Out in the natural wild, an animal's main evolutionary goal is pretty simple. Find food with the absolute least amount of effort possible, because they need to conserve energy. Fast forward to the modern digital wild, and look at us. Humans online. Our goal is to find information with the least cognitive effort and time. It's a direct parallel. Our survival instincts haven't gone anywhere. They've just adapted to a brand new digital environment. And that brings us to the formal name for what we're unpacking today. Information Foraging Theory, or IFT. This is essentially the scientific way of explaining how users search for information online using the exact same instincts animals use to forage for food in nature. For anyone building things online or honestly just trying to survive the digital world, this is absolutely massive. It means every single swipe, click, and tap is driven by a very primitive urge. We want the maximum reward, the info we're looking for the absolute minimum effort. Which leads us to the core rule of the game. Users will always follow the path that gives them the highest value of information for the lowest cost. Now that cost could be brainpower, time, or literally just the number of clicks. I want you to keep this equation in the back of your mind, because this one simple idea is the invisible force guiding every move we make on our screens. All right, so how do we actually pull this off? Let's open up the Forager's Toolkit, Scent and Patches. First up, we have information scent. Think about it like this. Just like a wolf catches the scent of prey or a bear sniffs out a beehive for honey, humans pick up on digital scents. Luckily, without the risk of getting stung, right? These are the little clues and cues that tell a user, hey, you're on the right track, keep going to get exactly what you're hunting for. We literally see these clues everywhere, all day long. Everyday examples are things like link labels, menu names, icons, the way search results are formatted, or even just the text on a button. And this brilliantly illustrates just how woven into our lives these scents are. Every single time you scan a navigation bar or read a bright Buy Now button, you are literally sniffing a digital trail to see if it leads to your dinner. Your goal. Now, there is a totally stark contrast in what happens next depending on that scent. A good information scent, users know exactly what to click. The path is crystal clear, super rewarding, and easy. But a poor information scent, that just leads to a massive web of confusion, backtracking, and pure frustration. And here's the kicker. If the scent goes cold, the digital forager gets annoyed and will almost always just give up the hunt entirely. They bounce. Okay, so that's scent. Let's look at the second tool in our kit, the information patch. A patch is really just a source or a cluster of related information. The best way to think about it is as the digital version of a berry bush in the forest. When an animal finds a bush, they have to do some quick math. Do I stay here and eat these berries, or should I move on and try to find a better bush? Online, we do the exact same subconscious calculation based on the value we think is hiding in that specific cluster of info. To ground this and make it a bit more concrete, here are some common patches you definitely hit up every day. A category page on a shopping site, a blog section, a specific dashboard tab in whatever software you use for work, or a product list page. These are your digital berry bushes. These are the spots where we pause our journey to gather what we need. So we're out there hunting for patches by following scents, but how exactly do we make that split-second decision to stay or bail? Well, it all comes down to the survival math, cost versus profitability. Let's start with the cost. The cost of foraging is defined as how much effort it actually takes to extract that information. And there's a simple, universal rule in digital design here. Lower cost directly equals a better user experience. Think of it like this. If it's too hard to get the food, the animal starves. If it's too hard to get the information, the user leaves. Let's break down the specific actions that make up this cost, kind of the toll of the hunt, if you will. We're talking about navigating, scrolling, clicking, reading, and understanding. And hey, fun fact for you, the average person actually scrolls the height of the Empire State Building on their phone every single month. That is a massive physical toll. But notice those last two on the list, reading and understanding. Those take real, actual cognitive energy. they put a heavy tax on our mental resources. And if that tax gets too high, the whole cost of foraging becomes completely unsustainable for the user. And that leads us right to the other side of the equation, which is profitability. This is basically the tipping point where a user decides to either keep going down a path or just abandon it entirely. Profitability is the ultimate decision maker for the digital forager. It is that critical moment of truth where we subconsciously ask ourselves, wait, is this even still worth my time and effort? For a path to be considered highly profitable, a few very specific conditions have to be met. The user has to be finding exactly what they want with minimum frustration, and they need to be getting quick feedback. If those three things aren't happening, the survival math falls apart completely. The user is just going to immediately abandon the page or app and go forage somewhere else where the food is easier to catch. Real-world foraging, high-profit doom scrolling. Let's shift gears and see how these exact survival mechanics are actually built into the massive platforms we use every single day. Let's break down how two absolute giants, YouTube and Instagram, literally engineer the perfect, lowest-cost foraging environments to keep us hooked. On YouTube, the information sent is incredibly strong, right? You've got compelling thumbnails and catchy titles pulling you in. The patch is that recommended video sidebar. And because autoplay steps in and does the work for you, the effort cost drops to literally zero. What happens? High profitability leading straight to binge watching. Now, Instagram uses a really similar playbook. The scent comes from hashtags and story bubbles, and those lead you right into the infinite patch of the Explore page. The cost? A tiny little flick of your thumb. Infinite scroll means extremely low cost. So users continue browsing for hours because they're getting this massive reward for almost zero effort. It is perfectly engineered foraging. Designing better digital habitats. Okay, so we know how these platforms capture our attention, but why does this actually matter for the creators, the designers, and the marketers who are building these spaces? Well, the crucial point here is that mastering information foraging theory actually solves some of the biggest, most stubborn problems in human-computer interaction. It helps us understand exactly why users click on certain links while totally ignoring others. It tells us why they abandon websites or apps in frustration. It essentially hands us a blueprint to structure our navigation intuitively and to drastically improve search functions, menus, and overall information architecture. Ultimately, understanding this allows designers to reduce that heavy cognitive load we talked about earlier, making the digital hunt completely effortless and super rewarding for the end user. Which brings us to our final thought for today's explainer. I really want to leave you with a direct challenge. Whether you're building websites, designing apps, or honestly just reflecting on your own behavior as you navigate the web, what is the scent of the digital habitats you build? And are you leading your users to a feast or a famine? Think about that the next time you design a menu or find yourself endlessly scrolling into the night. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer, and keep exploring.